Why are they standing? Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like first of all to thank Ruti Alon that for the last 10 years she's heading those important meetings. I think the progress that was done during this decade is unbelievable, and much of the credit should go to Ruti Alon, because I'm afraid that is their last Congress. Thank you, Ruti. I want to thank all of you for coming. We consider it as an extremely important gathering of people, of friends, of leaders, who are trying to see the future with a new eye and offering our generation a great deal of hope. I must admit that before coming here, I was in an unsettled mood. The news from Washington over the weekend were not very encouraging. So thanks heaven, over the weekend things were settled down more or less. We have heard yesterday a brilliant speech, and a very friendly one, by the President of the United States, Obama. And we're returning again to our main business, which is science, not politics, bayonet, not bayonets. And I believe it enables us really to look ahead. You know, I think that the major issue for the coming years will be the research of the brain. This is the greatest hope and greatest revelation. I don't think it's the last frontier, but I think it's maybe the most important frontier that we have to cross. I was a little bit disappointed when I tried to look in the Bible and find a reference to the brain. There is no reference in the Bible about the brain. Well, I was very disappointed about it. So we had to settle for a lesser title, which is The People of the Books. But alas, this too is not enough. By reading, you really don't grasp everything which is having. So I have now to go a little bit further, and instead of being the people of the book, we have to become the people of the Facebook. Because we have to face new situations. What can I do? Unprepared, revolutionary, and very hard to face them. And I'm thinking, now there is a revolution in the Middle East, or uprise, whatever it is. I'm thinking about all other revolutions in the world. They were prepared, really, by great thinkers, philosophers, authors, from Tolstoy to Lincoln, Voltaire, Victor Hugo. They brought us in. I'm not sure that in this present uprising I can find anybody that resembles one of them. Furthermore, we don't know at all who thought it out, who organized it, who are the leaders, what is the ideology, what is the plan. And what we have learned really is the machines that we have prepared and built became more powerful than the thought upon which we were living all our life. The information technology, in fact, became a social arm. It was a revolution because of information, because of the tubes, the Twitter, and the Facebook, and the internet catching the eye of a young generation that until now were under the auspices and curtain of a dictatorship, autocracy. They couldn't see what's going on in their own country. They were half blind, if not blind, and all of a sudden, by this modern technology, they could have seen in real time, eye to eye, the ugliness of corruption, of dictatorship, of starvation, of insult. And they could have compared it with other young people all over the world. And they asked themselves why there is different and why we are in the backyard, lagging behind everybody. It was very interesting, you know, because a part of the demonstrators, for the first time, were young women. In a way, it was a revolt of the women against the discrimination of women. You know, when I think about high-tech, it's not really a technology, it's a new way of life. You cannot have, in my judgment, high-tech in a society where women are being discriminated. No chance whatsoever. Because if women are discriminated, they don't have the proper education, they cannot provide education to their own children. It's half of the nation, half of the families, under the rule of the husband. President Obama asked me, who is the greater opponent to democracy in the Middle East? And my answer was the husbands. They are ruling the family. They don't want to share with their wives. And it goes up. So we saw the women raising the flags. We saw the young generation raising the flags. And I thought, my God, look what's happening. We introduced a machinery that we don't control anymore. And the machinery is not just producing material products, but social and philosophical situation. I can go on and say the other way around. One of the most revealing secrets of life, the atom, the nuclear, when it falls in the hands of irresponsible people, it's becoming the greatest danger. The same atom can produce electricity and can produce bombs. Nature is neutral. The atom doesn't care if you make out of it a bomb, or make out of it a electricity station. Who decides? The man, not the bomb. How to use the bomb. And it's not certain that the man is really entitled, intellectually and morally, to decide what to do with the atom. But the atom, as democracy, are no longer controlled by responsible, organized governments. And while we can control many of our surroundings, we are totally incapable to control ourselves. I do not see a world government that will really handle the greatest hopes, like democracy, or the greatest danger, like nuclear bombs. And I ask myself, what can be done? We are like a riddle that solves riddles and remain a riddle in our own eyes. We know more about the outside world than we know about ourselves. What makes us happy? What makes us fanatic? What urges us to agree or to fight? So we know it's inside ourselves There must be a process, there must be an equipment that makes those decisions, but we are unaware of them. We don't know how do they function. I'm thinking, about two unimportant instruments that probably revolutionized our lives. One is a mirror, and the other are glasses. Before the mirror, people that used to live in the jungle didn't cut their hair, didn't cut their nails, didn't wash. The mirror revolutionized our lives. Look at the mirror, you have to comb, you have to cut your nails, you have to be dressed. And look what happened once we got an idea about how we look. Maybe the brain will enable us not to see how we look, but also to look what makes us do things. And maybe the choice will be wider, and people will more understand themselves. The other is glasses. Without glasses, most of the people would be blind today, or at least half of their life they would be blind. Moses, who had an unbelievable brain, but his sight was short sight. He couldn't see more than the natural eyes can see during different ages. He didn't have glasses, he didn't have a microscope, he didn't have a telescope. By the way, I don't know what would he do if there would be an internet when he was on the temple and Mount Sinai. I don't know, he would write it on a stone. Maybe he would spread it all over the world. And he would save a lot of troubles to himself, to his people, and to his friends. So we can see what seeing means too, what glasses do. Glasses just as a symbol. Actually, science is fighting blindness. And I think we are still a great deal of blindness among us. We don't see ourselves. Our brain resides in our bodies, but we ourselves are not residing in the brain. It's a real contradiction. I believe that time has come to put the major effort to learn about ourselves so we shall be better people, more controlling ourselves, creating more hope. And I think there is already a beginning. One of the reasons is probably we couldn't tackle our brain because we didn't have the proper, delicate instrument to do so. The brain is so delicate, my God, I think that in this box, you can put in 1.5 billion point of nerves. How do they pack it? What are the communication between the brain and the rest of the body? We know that our skin is disappearing every couple of weeks. We have a new skin. How does the cell that was born yesterday knows about the commitment of the cell that passed away 2 weeks ago? How does it travel? What are the communication? What is the material? What are the strategies? And I'm sure that we have to be more friendly to the internet and maybe the internet to us. Maybe there are strengths in the internet or technologies that we don't possess in our brain, but there are clearly technologies in our brain which are not represented in the internet. So that leads me to think that we are entering a fourth epoch in human annals. The first was agriculture that affected our life. It forced us to divide the globe, to create states, to fight for land. wars were born on the land and because of the land. That was the reason. Our main income came from land, and every piece of land and every drop of water was so meaningful. You have had to put fences to organize armies, to organize nations. Then it was followed by a second epoch of the Industrial Revolution, less dependent upon land and more dependent upon industry and production. Because land, like oil, we don't produce it, we discover it. Industry, we produce. So we can go above and a little bit higher. Then came the third epoch, which is the information revolution. It still goes on endlessly. We can pass information in such huge masses, in such short of time, so I don't know if we have enough information to meet the quickness of its moving. We can provide a great deal of news, but I'm not sure that we have enough news that justifies the investment in it. Anyway, as we see, the information epoch, the information revolution is beginning to create social revolutions, social and technological revolutions, and nothing will remain. Now I think we're approaching the fourth epoch, the neo-revolution, neo-technology. This will exceed all the other three, because it is obvious that the most brilliant, fascinating, promising instrument is here in our brains. Our brains, which are controlled by our mind, and the mind from time to time leads to innovations, and from time to time holds them back. Because many of us, maybe most of us, prefer to remember rather than to imagine. And when I say remembering, you not necessarily really remember all things. You prefer to remember the nice things of life and forget others. So remembering is a nice experience, a nostalgia. But we have not just to remember, or maybe more important than remember, is to imagine, to look ahead, and to think. If I can say, not scientifically, but in a lighter way, that the great things were born in our dreams. Well, why in our dreams? Because during the day, our brain is controlled by our mind. During the night, the mind goes to sleep, the brain continues to act, not being controlled by ourselves, by our minds. And then we're becoming wild and beginning to think out stories out of the box, new things. You wake up in the morning, a new person maybe. So to dream is not as important than to think. And I do believe that in the coming 10 years, 10 or 15 years, the brain research will be the most important one. It will revolutionize our lives. It will teach us how to create artificial parts of our body, how to handle our brains, and it will bring a great deal of unbelievable technologies in all domains of life. It is because of it, several years ago I thought that the upcoming technology will be the nanotechnology, and I devoted most of my time to convince our own people and to bring in investment to the country. And thanks heaven, it worked nice. Israel today is an important center of nanotechnology. I think we have mobilized at that time $500 million that we distributed to the universities, to the research centers. I want to say one thing as to advocate my own self. If I am responsible for mobilizing money, I'm very careful not to mix myself in the distribution of money. I think this should be done by professional people, by scientists, without any pressure or inclination by others, so they can feel free to invest in whatever they think is important from their standpoint. Now, I do believe that neurotechnology, the technology that will help us to understand and influence our brains, is accelerating the pace of change almost everywhere, from financial markets to law enforcement, to politics, to advertisement, to marketing, artistic expressions, welfare, and even religious belief. Brains-related illness generate more health care and lost income than any other area of health-related issues. There is an estimate that $2 trillion annually worldwide and $1.3 trillion annually in the United States. In the United States, there are nearly 100 million Americans who suffer from brain-related or nervous diseases, injuries, or disorders. I believe it's true about all countries, not only the United States. Present technologies, advances, may allow some of mankind's greatest challenges to be addressed. Heart and brain degenerated diseases, Alzheimer, Parkinson. This development may provide eyesight for 35 million people who are today blind, and 140 million people that cannot hear. Let me tell you an anecdote. A few weeks ago, a donor from the United States decided to provide 1,000 hearing aids to the Palestinian people. And we agreed, our doctors did it voluntarily. They went on their own to Palestinian villages, they checked, they found 1,000 people who really need it. The equipment arrived a couple of weeks ago, and then I got a call from the doctors. They say the security has held it up. They don't know what are the aims, what are the aiding heroes going to serve, war or peace, is it dangerous or not? Well, I called up our security people, says, look, if they can hear better, I assure you, they will be more for peace. If they can see better, they will be more for peace. And what is also really moving is to remove the physical disability of 20 million people caused by amputation and re-establish the sense of touch and feeling with the outside world. Provide quality of life to 320 million people who suffer from migraine. And really, to begin self-control. Now, the McKinsey company had here a conference. I was lecturing before them, and then they say, the CEO told me, Mr. Peres, thank you for your lecture. We want to give you a gift. What is a gift? You can select any subject you want, and we shall research it free of charge. It's not bad. So I selected the subject, how can we make Israel a center of nanotechnology. They submitted a brilliant report, and the indication is that Israel has a strong tradition, I'm reading from the report, of putting science and technology at the forefront of its economic development. The country invests 4 to 5% of its GDP on R&D each year. I mean, it's more than most of the countries in the world, and has developed leadership in terms of scientists, engineers, and patents per capita. Israel has become an important center of innovation and has proven track record in fields such as computer science, navigations, nanotechnology, and brain research. And Israel is well positioned to lead nanotechnology. Israel is emerging an important center for nanotechnology. 7 university neuroscience centers. Academia productivity is among world highest, with 4,000 publications a year in nanotechnology. Israel is ranked 5th in neuroscience publication productivity based on the number of publications per capita. Israel built a world-renowned medical device cluster that includes dozens of startups and centers for some of the major medical devices, multinationals such as J&J, GE, Healthcare, Medtronic, and others. Israel established leadership in the field of nanotechnology, engineering, and optics technology in the defense, high-tech, and life science industries. Israel is the 4th largest originator of medical device related to IP globally. There are exciting innovations in the Israeli startup arena in the field of neural medical devices. Then, this says there are 5 different domains in the nanotechnology. He said, unfortunately, you're not America. You cannot research in all the 5, but you can select 2 in 2 domains in which we believe, the McKinsey company believes, Israel is advanced maybe more than any other countries. One is the interface between brain and internet. That's really for us. I mean, to check what can we take from the brain and introduce in the internet and vice versa. What can we take from the internet or from electricity and introduce in our brain? For example, we have already some experience in introducing electrodes in our brains to save Alzheimer or other diseases. And the same goes about other problems. So they say the dialogue between brains and machine is typical and fits you. And they say your doctors are very good on therapy. So the second issue will be therapy. How really to handle with this combination of brain and internet sicknesses and diseases that don't have yet an answer. For that reason, we decided to have a sort of a presidential auspices and organized a not-for-profit, non-governmental center headed by Rafi Kidron, one of our outstanding scientists in it, with a group of scientists. It will be really managed or guided by our Academy of Arts. They will distribute the money. When it comes to money, don't suggest the politicians will get involved. Let the scientists do their job and free to establish priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, I really want to invite you to participate in this voyage. It is open. We shall adopt ourselves to every country. We don't think it's national. And thanks heaven that while we are still dealing how to fix our borders, so to end the conflict between us and the Palestinians, at the same time, why not handle the borderless occasion, which is the great promise for all of us, Arabs and Jews and Christians, young and old. This is a voyage of a moral value, of a human promise, of a technology brilliance. Please join us in. Thank you very much.